good sir. Z1 Hero.
What did I just watch?
Z1 just took out 3 skulks at once.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Nexus eSports Edition. This is your host Daigo, and we have with us one of the developers from Unknown Worlds, and we're here to talk about Natural Selection 2, which I guess that most of the people that might be hearing this are a bit unfamiliar, but we'll get very deep into the subject. Hugh Jeremy, hello, how are you?
G'day, Dago. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to be doing this. I'm happy to have you here on the show. So, okay.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, yeah, no, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. Okay, we're talking a bit about this before we started even. You're not from the US, you're from Australia?
Yes.
Is your
I
background?
am from down under.
Down under?
Yes.
Yeah. What part of Australia, by the way?
Sydney.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
everyone knows Sydney, I guess. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I've never been, unfortunately.
One day, mate. One day.
A bit about yourself. I mean, have you always been in the gaming industry, or how's your background?
Absolutely not. Until 3 months ago, I was an accountant in a big office tower in Sydney. I had an accounting degree with finance, economics, that kind of thing. So that's what I used to do until 3 months ago. Yeah.
So,
is that what you were expecting?
No, it wasn't. Not at all. And how was the twist of fate for you to be within the gaming and specifically esports world?
So about 2 years ago, I started a YouTube channel called Natural Selection 2 HD. And in fact, everyone knew Husky StarCraft and HD StarCraft back then. Anyone that was watching sort of the StarCraft 2 beta as it came out. And I looked at those guys and I thought, I would love to do that for a game, but what game has it not already been done for? And I saw, well, Natural Selection is coming. Natural Selection 2 is coming, sorry. And maybe I could be the first one. And so I just started a channel. And it was just, if you look at my first videos, they're incredibly embarrassing. But over 2 years, I've had 450 videos so far, and covering everything from the game's development to little features to damage output of units and now I mainly focus on actual competitive games. And basically, Unknown Worlds saw all that and they said, "Hey, this is pretty cool. Do you want to actually come and work for us?" And I visited them twice last year in 2011, once in January, once in December. And finally they said, "All right, why don't you come on over?" And I thought, yep, that beats my my original job.
In this case, it was basically Uncle Sam in the famous old 19th century picture. We need you.
I don't know if they needed me, but they were very kind to offer me the opportunity to try to run the public face of Natural Selection 2, which is a lot of fun.
And the company you're working with, which is this independent company called Unknown Worlds, which they are responsible for Natural Selection 1 and Natural Selection 2. What is your role within the company besides casting?
Yeah, so Unknown Worlds, we've got 8 permanent full-time employees here in the office in San Francisco. My role is public relations, events like PAX, it's movie making, carpentry, gardening. Yeah, it's a very sort of wide-ranging role that encompasses a lot. It's very hard to pin down. When people ask me what my job is, I just can't give them a specific answer. It's like just a fixer, I guess, to try and get the public word out there and try and grow the community of Natural Selection 2 and help the community of Natural Selection 2 help us.
Basically, you're everywhere. Try
to be. My job definitely isn't interesting as, say, Deshaun, who sits next to me, is a programmer. Corey on my right, he's the art director. They've got much more interesting stuff going on. And we also have, there are other employees as well. We have off-site part-timers and off-site full-timers as well, helping us to make this game. But we're definitely a very small crew.
Well, no, that's really awesome. And actually, I'm talking about the crew. I was checking the Unknown Worlds website earlier, and I found it interesting because it's an independent company and it's not huge as in comparison to other game developer companies that are well known, but still, it's a sizable crew. There's a guy called Squeal, his nickname is Squeal Like a Pig.
Yep.
And then you have Chops and Murphy. How would you describe the Unknown World family, if you will?
Yeah, it's very close knit. I'm sort of newbie of the family. But it's a really friendly crew. As a game development house, it's really friendly. You know, we go to lunch together every day. We're always doing things together, discussing things together. You know, we're social outside of work. It's a very exciting crew, and everyone is just extremely friendly. It really is a remarkable working environment. I mean, it's the most amazing working environment I've ever seen in all the jobs I've ever had. They're a really cool bunch of dudes. And
Let's start talking about natural selection.
absolutely, that's where the fun is.
Exactly. And before Natural Selection 2, there was a Natural Selection 1. Were you familiar with the existence of this? Because originally, if I'm not mistaken, Natural Selection 1 was a Half-Life mod that was released around 2000 or 2001, I believe.
Actually, it's funny you say that. I was just doing a news post on the Unknown Worlds blog, and I realized it was the 500th news post about Natural Selection. So I looked back at the first one, which was in 2000, it was in September 2001. The game wasn't released in 2001, 2002, you were very close. But, it's been 500 news posts since the start of Natural Selection 1, which, as you say, was a Half-Life mod, that came out back then. And I was sort of vaguely familiar with it. I mean, I definitely played it. I was definitely too young in 2002 to play it. But I did play it, 2004 or 5 and thought, wow, this is really cool. In fact, I probably did play it back in 2003. What am I talking about? But, it was a really cool childhood experience, and sort of knowing that there was this flavor guy out there, and that's Charlie. He actually created the original game basically by quitting his job and sitting in his apartment for 2 years straight, getting all the help he could from people, volunteers, and he just built the game from the ground up.
Unfortunately, I never heard of it, and even GameSpy classified it as quote and unquote, possibly the most ambitious user-made modification ever brought to fruition. This multiplayer-only mod somehow manages to transform the aging Half-Life into a seemingly brand new, atmospheric, and surprisingly deep action strategy game. And to quote a tweet, it says, "It is as if Counter-Strike and StarCraft 2 had a beautiful kid." And I think it nails down to the core of Natural Selection games. So, okay, how could you describe for the listeners of the podcast, how would you describe Natural Selection?
I would describe it by telling you a story. And that story, I would want to tell it from two perspectives. Let's say you're familiar with StarCraft, for example. You're a Terran Marine. You're playing through the first person view. Let's say you're playing some StarCraft and you've got a Terran Marine on the ground. And you're messing with him and you're telling him to go places. And let's say you want to get some scouting information about a Zerg position. And so you say to that Marine, right, you click on him and you right click into the Zerg position, and he runs over there, he goes, whatever they say, and then he goes, because he gets killed by the Zerg. Now, he's just going to do that, no matter what, because you right clicked and he moved. Now, in Natural Selection 2, if you click on one of your Marines and move them, they can talk smack back at you and say, hey man, there's no way I'm going in there. That's a massive alien position. I'm going to get killed if I go in there. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear. I'm going to get killed if I go in there. So there you go. That's the first story. The second story is, let's say you're playing, give me a science fiction first-person shooter. I don't know. I don't want to say Halo because that's just, it's probably not the right audience. But
Half-Life? No.
Yeah, let's say you're playing, okay. I don't know. Let's just, for example, say you're playing Counter-Strike. Okay. And, so you're moving to defuse, you're moving out and you hear that the bomb's been planted, but you don't know where, right? You don't know where. And suddenly you get a waypoint on your screen that says, I need you to move to this passageway and defend this passageway because it's crucial because the other team is moving around the back to defuse the bomb. So effectively, you've got that real-time strategy happening. Those are the two stories I'd say you think about when you're trying to think about Natural Selection 2, because it seamlessly combines real-time strategy with first-person shooter. If you're playing in the real-time strategy perspective, all your units are real human beings with human psyches, with feelings. They need to be led rather than just ordered. And as a player on the ground playing in the first-person perspective, you have a commander up above you who is a real human who directs you, tries to lead you, build structures. And the point I'd really drive home is that in most video games, you don't need to see leadership. You do often in first-person games, that have a bit of strategy in them where you have, say, a squad leader. Maybe you see a bit of it in, Battlefield 2 or something like that. In Natural Selection 2, it is absolutely crucial to have human leadership qualities as a commander, and on the ground, the experiences that can create for players is just outstanding. the situations you can get yourself into when you have a human directing you and human buddies all around you is just incredible. Whether you're playing on the alien side or the marine side, and point to make is that both sides are completely asymmetrical.
Is there a system of leadership in the alien side as well? I mean,
absolutely, the alien commander as well. They didn't used to in Natural Selection 1. We have added a commander in Natural Selection 2. We feel it's a plus to the game, brings real-time strategy to the alien side in a way it wasn't quite there before. And absolutely, both teams have a real-time strategy commander. And also, I mean, for those that aren't familiar, the commander is not chosen through a menu or picked through an automatic system. There is a structure on the ground at the start of the game. For the aliens, it's called a hive. It hangs from the ceiling. For the marines, it's called a command station, and it sits on the floor. Now, the first player to get into the structure becomes the commander. That commander can leave at any time. For example, just today, I was playing in a game. We were heavily under attack in our base, and I was trying to direct my troops. I was saying, guys, we need to push out and get this resource node out here to get some more resources so we can buy some more weapons. But we weren't having much luck, and suddenly the aliens swarmed into the base, and one of my teammates just screamed out over the microphone, Strayan, which is the name I got, we need your help on the ground. And so I had to get out of the command station, pull out my rifle, and start fighting as the aliens came into our base. So it's not divided, it's real time. You can move in between both the real time strategy and the first person shooter absolutely seamlessly with the press of one button.
Okay, you talked about Flair making the game, quitting his job, and sitting in his home for 2 years making this game and this concept. Do you know what came up in his mind to create something this unique?
I think I remember having a conversation with him about this once last year, and I believe what he said to me was, games often are about some sort of war or conflict, and we use those as metaphors for struggles, for all sorts of struggles. You know, like StarCraft 2 is a war game, although you're not getting into the politics of war or anything like that. And so he thought, well, if wars have leaders of men and men fighting, or women, it's important as well. You know, that you have leaders of women and men, and most video games only provide you with one side of the story. And that's not saying they're bad games. You know, they're amazing games. StarCraft 2 is amazing. Counter-Strike is amazing. But why not combine the leadership and the individual struggle of conflict in general? And that was what led him to the idea of natural selection in the first place, I believe. And you'd have to ask him, but that's what he said to me at one point.
Okay, before going back into detail about the strategy, because I want to cover as well, because you already mentioned a bit, you know, the spawning areas of the hive and the command center, and also about the resources. We're going to go talk a bit more about that. What about the story behind natural selection? It's the distant future, humanity, where is it at, and who are these alien species?
Absolutely. Now, the lore of natural selection is, you're going to laugh at me for saying this, but it's even being built today. People even write stories to try and contribute to the lore of natural selection. But very roughly, what you've got is a future setting where the aliens are called the Kara, by the way, where some sort of, infestation, some sort of bacterial infestation has taken these animal creatures and made them into a fighting force. Notice I'm not saying they're the evil guys. They're not the bad guys necessarily. Now the Marines, these are Marines, we call them a Trans-System Federation. We actually used to call them the TSA, and I'll let you guess why we changed it. They are the ones that are dispatched by humanity to protect their facilities, their commercial interests from this animalistic species that is trying to take over. And we leave the question open as to whether these animals were here first and it's just this infestation that has finally given them the ability to fight back, or is it the humans that were there first? But we're definitely not saying either side is good or bad. It's just this is a struggle, and you can pick your side and play it out as you will.
Let's go about how the strategy works. Let's say a match starts. You have a map, and you have 2 spawning points, right?
Yes. So I'd probably start with the basic idea behind a map in Natural Selection 2. And that is, it'll be whatever environment, but in that map it'll have 2 critical types of point in the map. The first is a resource node. The second is a tech point. Now the tech point is a place where the command structure can be placed. Now that can be a hive or a command station. At the start of the game, each team has a tech point already, and that's where the command station or hive is. But all over the map, there are other tech points where they can build new command stations and hives, and growing more hives, I should say, will actually give the aliens access to more abilities. For the Marines, it might give them a second point they can fall back to if their original is lost. Now, the second point, the resource node, capping. We say capping those nodes, and for the Marines that means building an extractor structure on top of the node. For the aliens it means growing a harvester structure on top of it. That allows you to collect resources which you can spend on technology, buildings, evolutions if you're the aliens, life forms if you're the aliens, weapons if you're the Marines. So that's roughly how it works. And so the maps can flow around. You're not stuck in your starting position. You can move to any tech point you want. And actually one of the more interesting strategies for the Marines is before maybe they'll start in a position they don't really like, or maybe they're playing on a map where the Marine start position is fixed, and they'll say, right, start of the game, up and at them. They immediately run out of their base, go to a completely different tech point, drop a new command station, sell everything in their old base, and then play. So they call that a relocation. Whoa. That's roughly how the map structure works with what's out there on the map.
Okay, no, this is really all interesting. Okay, my brain is making analogies and comparisons with, for example, Forge Fast Expand for the Protoss in StarCraft 2, for example. You're taking, if you're doing a relocation, you're actually you're exposing yourself while you're trying to relocate and move your command center or to another tech point and get all this money all of a sudden. It's quite a risky move. How about the units themselves? Are there different classes in the alien race and humans?
Yeah, absolutely. Both sides are completely asymmetrical, so I'll have to tell you how each one works. Okay. For the Marine, the human side, who are actually called the frontiersmen, by the way, they basically are human throughout the whole game. You'll always be a person on the Marine side, but your equipment can change. Now, for example, your weaponry, you start with a basic rifle. Now, you can also have shotguns, grenade launchers, flamethrowers, you use switch axe, pistol. So there's a whole bunch of different weapons available, welding tools, building tools. You can also have different levels of armor upgrades. You can have different levels of weapon damage. You can have mines. You can also get into, although this isn't in the game yet, but it will be, you can step into a mechanized suit called an exosuit, which allows you to have miniguns, rail guns, a giant claw fist where you'll actually be able to punch aliens as they come at you, or punch through doors. So there's a wide array of equipment, and also importantly, the Marines can access different technologies that support them as individuals. For example, they can access nanoshields to give them shielding against alien attack. They can get phase gates, which allow them to instantly teleport across the map. They can get arcs, which are roving assault cannons, which can shoot through walls and destroy alien structures. Whoa. They can get sentry guns. There's a huge variety of technology at the Marines' disposal, and like in any good strategy game, like in StarCraft, there are trade-offs to every tech path you choose. Yes. If you choose a Robo Bay in StarCraft, you've made a choice, and the Zerg or the Protoss can counter you in a certain way. It's the same. If you choose a phase gate path, maybe there's certain counters to that, and you've made choices. Now, on the alien side, completely different, completely asymmetrical. On the alien side, you will not always be the same alien. You start off as a Skulk, which is a wall-running, four-legged alien, very, very fast, able to leap off walls, on the ceilings, get at Marines very quickly and gnash them to bits when the camera is in the mouth. You can also play as a Gorge, who is like a combat engineer, a Lurk, who is like a flying bomber support class. You can deploy gas and spikes. The Fade, who is an absolutely terrifying alien who can blink in and out of existence, much like, who's that character I can't remember. Anyway, so he can blink around a room. And in fact, one of the most enjoyable things I find in National Selection 2 is run into a room as a Fade and see a Marine pointing his rifle at you. And as he begins to fire, you blink and you go behind him, and all he sees is a swirl of black mist. And then he's still firing into that mist, and he stops and realizes, where'd he go? He turns around instinctively. You're there. You blink again behind him, and you get closer and closer every time. Chop him down with your giant scythe arms. And the final alien class, so number 5, is called the Onos. The Onos is a giant gorilla-like creature, huge compared to the other aliens, very, very expensive in terms of resources to become this creature. And he is basically one-on-one with a Marine. He will tear that Marine apart. He's capable of stomping the ground, knocking them to the ground. He's capable of goring them with a huge tusk like a bull or a rhinoceros. And he is capable of destroying power nodes, which are the nodes that deliver power to Marine structures and keep the lights on. He's able to take them out very, very quickly. And all these aliens have a wide variety of abilities that get unlocked. You can evolve different upgrades for them, and as you get more hives and more evolutions, you can actually unlock new abilities. For example, the Onos having Primal Scream, which isn't in the game yet, but that Scream will buff units around him, give them a greater attack speed. So that's just one very, very small example. Or the Skulking able to explode into Xenocide.
Amazing. You're describing something, well, very complex. I know it's
very complex.
It is complex. If I understand that correctly, the different units are available in time once you get more resource points. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. So as an alien life form, when you start off as a basic skulk, you'll start the game with, I believe we're starting with 25 resources at the moment. Now, as you gather resources throughout the game, so the more harvesters you have on resource nodes all over the map, the more resources you will build. Now, when you've got 10 resources, you can go Gorge, the combat engineer. When you have 30, you can go Lurk, the support flyer. When you have 50, you can go Fade, the shifting silent killer. And when you have 75, you can go Honor. So it is dependent on the amount of resources you collect. But importantly, the effectiveness of that alien is also determined by what strategic choices your commander has made. For example, if he's chosen a stealth path, the evolutions available to you as an alien will be stealthy. For example, you could choose to be able to cloak or be silent in your movements. If he's chosen a defensive armor path, you might have regeneration and an armor available to your alien. So there's a huge web of intricate connections where the commander drives the strategy, but the individual player makes all the tactical decisions they want. Hopefully, if their commander's very good, they'll have a direction. The commander will be saying, hey, we need to attack here, and we need more lurks, or we need more fades. But, each player has absolute freedom. Commander can't force them to do anything, but the commander can direct what kind of alien they are. Are they stealthy? Are they defensive? Are they fast?
Amazing. Okay, and I'm talking about the units and the strategy still. So, what is that determines which is successful? I mean, what's the end goal of a match, for example? Is it destroying the command center of Hive, or?
Absolutely, it is. The goal is to wipe the other team out. You can achieve that either by killing, if the aliens, by killing every single marine and every single infantry porter, which is the structure they use to spawn in. You can also win by killing all of their command stations. So marines will usually only have one. The marines can win by killing every single hive on the map. Usually, aliens will have more than one hive, just they'll naturally want to get more hives out. But yes, kill that structure and you win the game.
I noticed by watching the streams, it's interesting that the alien side, they sort of spread, right? The alien tissue sort of like spreads. It's sort of like a Zerg creep, if you don't mind.
It is like a Zerg creep. Yeah, it absolutely is a little bit like that. They creep all over the map. They infest the map, and it actually changes the way rooms act once the aliens infest them. Once they infest the marines, I believe right now marines are being slowed, or we might have changed that to aliens being sped up. And there's various buffs the aliens get from spreading their infestation throughout the map. If I can just digress, the reason we do that is because we want there to be a way for both teams to delineate the fact that they have map control over a certain area. For the Marines, this is having the lights on with a power node. For the aliens, it's spreading their infestation. So, for example, if the aliens were to take, let's say the Marines have a position set up with a couple of sentry guns, an armory, and a phase gate. So a nice little defensive position. They're protecting a room, a resource node, something. The aliens get in there and they take it out. Now, what does that room look like before the aliens get in there? It's very nicely lit. It's relatively welcoming for the Marines, and it's a good place for them to be. All the buildings are working. Now, as the aliens come into that room and defeat the Marines in that position, they can turn the lights out, they can infest the room, and by the end of their attack, instead of having a brightly lit room with marine structures in it, you'll have emergency red lighting pulsing on and off, making it very hard to see. You'll have green infestation all over the walls, things glowing in the darkness as structures start to grow out of it. So the idea is, with the infestation and the power nodes, that we can change the way the map feels depending on who controls an area.
Amazing, amazing. And you mentioned an alien taking a power node, so it cuts off the power of a certain area of the map.
Yes.
What would be the equivalent for the humans attacking the aliens? How to stop a creep, for example?
Well, they might choose to use a flamethrower and burn back the infestation. They can always just shoot at the little cysts on the ground, which are similar to creep tumors, or they do act in some crucial different ways. So they can kill and push back the alien life as it grows. They can kill the structures with all their physical weapons. They can use the Arc siege tank to blow everything apart in sonic blasts. So they have various tools at their disposal to send the aliens back. And then once they get control of a room again, once they've come in and defeated the aliens, it will revert. It can revert if they choose to spend enough time doing it from a dimly lit room with growth everywhere, very organic environment. They can turn the power back on and they can kill all the alien life, and it will return to being a brightly lit room where they can then build structures and power them.
Amazing. And, well, you mentioned before when you were talking about some of the alien units. For example, this unit that I can't remember the name. The one that can blink. There's this black mist.
Yes, the Fade, yes.
The Fade. Besides those special abilities that these units have in particular, are there other characteristics or buffs? Like, for example, in some RTS games, StarCraft, for example, there's this unit that it's more effective against light armored units, but it's not it doesn't go well against very heavy armored units. Is there something similar with Natural Selection too?
Absolutely. There are different damage types, throughout the game. We would definitely try to add that layer of strategy to it and tactical complexity. For example, if you buy a shotgun as a Marine, that shotgun is very effective against the lightly armored Skulk, which is a very fast-moving alien that gets all over the walls and can get at you with its claws and teeth. Now, so you could if you're good with a shotgun, you could track Skulks and kill them relatively easy, not easily, but much more effectively than with a rifle. However, if say you have an Onos coming at you down a hallway and you're using a shotgun, those shotgun pellets cannot as effectively penetrate his thick hide armor, and you actually might want a rifle to deal with that situation. Guess that leads on to the fact that no weapon actually becomes obsolete throughout the game. For example, the rifle, while it may be your starting weapon, is still a crucial weapon at the end of the game. And the Skulk, while you start as a Skulk on the alien side, you definitely want to have Skulks at the end of the game for their particular mix of stealth, speed, and damage. We definitely don't allow any weapon or alien to become obsolete. And the crucial point about that is you can't join a StarCraft 2 game halfway through.
No.
So if you could, you'd be at a huge disadvantage because you'd only have probes and a Nexus or drones and a hatchery, sorry. So what we're trying to do is make sure that if a player does join a game and it's been going on for 10 minutes and they can only go as a Skulk or they can only run around as a Marine with a rifle, they will still be effective and they will still have a lot of fun.
And let's talk about the map. Actually, before I ask you that, I guess that you've been playing a lot because you're also part of a development team, and again, I told you I was watching the earlier stream when it was this open Q&A with, was it Flair?
Yes, that was Flair. That was Charlie.
Nice.
He's the game director.
Nice.
The boss.
The boss. And there were so many interesting questions, and I guess you've played already as a commander in many matches, I assume. How is that different can you switch strategies mid-game? Like, for example, if you go, a phase route, for example, phase build, can you switch easily back to another sort of like tech build?
Well, like in any real-time strategy game, you sunk some resources and some time into choosing a particular strategy. But like most RTS games, you can change your mind. So maybe you want to switch up and go for a jetpack push or something like that. Maybe you want to do a quick jetpack plus shotgun rush on a hive. You can do that, but you've made sacrifices, so you're not going to be able to push it out as fast. You can recycle structures to try and recover some of their cost. But, there's absolutely potential to change strategies, and, you have to, because if the aliens counter your phase gate push with very fast lurks and fades locking down your phase gates, then absolutely you must switch your strategy. But there are trade-offs, and you have sacrificed time and res, so, like in any good RTS, we try to make it so that your decisions have consequences throughout the game.
Amazing. And now for the question that I wanted to ask previously. Let's talk about maps. And actually, I get the feeling that we're focusing a lot about the RTS component, and afterwards I want to focus on the FPS component of the game, if you will. But in RTS games, maps are highly crucial. Depending on where the starting point is, where other resources or places where you can build other structures. Sometimes they're really vulnerable to attacks, sometimes they're not, so it's fairly easy for you to expand or relocate and things like that. So how are the maps created, and how maps play a huge role in natural selection?
They do play a huge role. And it is, I'd say it was uniquely difficult for us to even balance them, because you are touching on so many issues we have with the maps, which is starting positions do affect the way an alien can push. And for example, if the aliens spawn in a location with, say, long sight lines to all the entrances, the Marines can exploit that by shooting through those entrances and hitting the hive from a long distance. And most of the aliens actually have melee attacks that can cause problems for them. So absolutely, every starting position is unique. We have a wide variety of maps, both released and in the works. Some of them are very symmetrical maps, where they are sort of a circle with a central point. Others are very linear. Well, not linear, but more linear. than that, they'll have a sort of defined upper section, lower section, such as Mineshaft.
Wow.
And the aliens mostly are melee characters, melee life forms, so they can have trouble dealing with that. And we have a wide variety of maps, and each room in every map is very unique, very different. So some of the maps are quite circular with central points, such as Summit. So it might not matter so much where you start your strategy, depending on the peculiarities of that room. Something like Mineshaft is more linear. While not being linear, it has a definite front and back. It has, actually an upper area where the sort of loading facility is, and then right down the bottom where the cavern of the mine is. And so that definitely, spawning on a different map will absolutely affect the tech choices you might choose. For example, on Mineshaft, Marines can be particularly effective with the shotgun plus jetpack rush I was talking about. Because the jetpack gives them great mobility to get down into the mineshaft system, into the caverns, and attack the aliens in the wide open spaces before the aliens can react effectively to that. So the maps play a crucial role.
Amazing. No, this is something really great. Okay, and how many maps are available so far? Because, for the people who are listening now, I mean, Natural Selection 2 is currently in a closed beta. There are tournaments already streaming at Twitch TV. How many maps are available currently?
Yes, there are 3 maps currently playable. There's a wide variety. I mean, Dago, I'm really going to roll with this question because it leads on to so many things. And before I start rolling and boring all your listeners with my rambling, about the closed beta, you can actually enter that at naturalselection2.com if you would like to. It's $35 now for the beta, for all our modding tools, and for the full game. You get it all with that $35. Now, so onto the maps that are available. There are 3 maps available right now: Summit, Mineshaft, and Tram in the beta. However, we are so open with modding, and we are so open with all our tools. You get the map editor with the game, just like some big AAA titles do, that there are so many custom maps being made. And just like I was a YouTube caster that ended up on the team, there was a mapper called Psycho Man who created the map Summit as a custom map. And it was so good that it actually is now included officially in Natural Selection 2. So he became an official mapper, and he actually got his map into Natural Selection 2. So, I mean, that's just a metaphor for just how open we are with our development. Now, there are a whole lot of other maps in development, and in fact, just today I played in playtest, just internal playtest, so not accessible to the wider beta player base yet, where 3 of our other maps are nearing completion. One of them might be released as early as next month, and the others definitely before release. So there's a wide variety of maps coming, and again, I must reiterate that we make it so easy for you to custom map that the number of maps available is just hopefully going to explode.
Oh, that's amazing. No, and that's really good. And I noticed that today at the stream. I mean, it's something more inviting. I mean, people get so involved because they play the game and they realize that they can make these maps, and they realize how the balance works and the inner works of the game. And this is just amazing. Let's go to the FPS standpoint. Like, for example,
Sure.
What was the map? I can't remember any more names of Counter-Strike maps because I played before even 1.6. I played the old school Counter-Strike.
And 1.5 was where it was at. None of this 1.6.
Even like I watched the GO now, and I'm like, I don't know, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
No. And I remember, like, for example, switch to knife, run faster because I know that my weapons are a bit heavier. How is that type of FPS experience in Natural Selection 2?
Yeah,
for example, weapon recoil, crosshair dispersion, things like that.
Absolutely. It is more in the vein of sort of Quake in terms of the first person shooter mechanics for the weapons. There is no recoil on the Marine rifle, so you can fire it full auto and it'll do the same accuracy as if you fire it in single shots. Now, it is a bit different, to your traditional sort of Counter-Strike, game there's no iron sights either though, so your Counter-Strike guys will be happy with that. We haven't gone down the Call of Duty route of having everything with iron sights. There is a huge movement component to the game. There was a massive movement component to Natural Selection 1, timing your jumps and running at certain angles and all that. In Natural Selection 2, that is all still there. In different ways. The Marine movement is crucial. When you go into combat with a skulk, you want to be able to jump just at the right time or crouch at just the right time to get away from attacks. So there is a wide variety of stuff. And I know it must sound like because there's no recoil, that means there's no depth to the first person play. honestly, I challenge you to play it, because when you have 5 different types of alien life forms running at you, or flying at you, or leaping at you, or moving through space so you can't even see them, the amount of aim that is required is massive. And even though there's no recoil, I guarantee you will miss your targets a lot. I mean, for example, the Skulk is the size of half your body, and it's moving 4 times as fast as you can. Or the Onos is, 5 times the size of you. So there's a huge variety of targets, the way they move. There's a lot of intricacy to the way the weapons play. There's also a wide variety of weapons, as well as I was mentioning, flamethrowers, grenade launchers, shotguns, rifles, pistols, etc., that all have completely different dynamics.
Oh man, it's just what you're telling me. I'm just getting giddy and excited about everything because well, that's when you're playing the human side. But within the aliens, obviously, you're playing a creature, and you're not carrying weapons, right? So, what differentiates your? I mean, besides those special abilities that you have when you're attacking melee, is there a difference as well? Like you would rather choose a Skulk for heavier melee damage, or another class for that, or for instance?
Sure, the Skulk is very, very good at dealing lots and lots of damage to whatever it manages to get right up close to with its jaws. It goes, and you actually see through its jaws. I don't know if you've played yet, but I mean, you have to have a go at that. So, that's what the Skulk does. The Skulk's, all of the Skulk is designed and, naturally evolved to be able to leap very quickly off walls, off ceilings, and get close to the target to bite. Now, the Fade, for example, is all built around, again, getting close to the target, but dealing damage in very precise way. So the Fade actually attacks quite slowly. You need to be precise with your hit, and you also need to use its blink ability to blink around space, around your targets, to put yourself in a position where you can get those swipes off at them and effectively engage them. Now the Lurk, that's a whole different kettle of fish, because suddenly you have a ranged weapon, the spikes. Not terribly effective, the spikes, but your other abilities are where you start to shine, which is the fact that you can fly, and which is a lot of fun. It's like flying a fighter bomber, but in an FPS game with an RTS commander. You right click and you drop a trail of gas behind you, and you can swoop, for example, you swoop into a base. Let's paint a picture. You swoop into a marine base. There are sentry guns firing. Your teammates are trying to get in there to engage at melee range. You swoop in as a Lurk, start dropping gas behind you. You drop gas over the sentry guns. They get confused. They can't see anymore. They stop firing. You drop gas over the Marines. You fly in between the buildings and drop gas. The Marines start to choke and die because of your gas. And then you fly out, and your buddies start to come in, and you come back in for another path, and you switch to your bile bomb. And you fly over the Marine structures and over the Marines and drop a bomb on them full of bile and goo, which burns the structures. So each alien plays completely differently. They all have completely different movement dynamics. They all have completely different weapons and abilities. So each one is a complete new learning experience.
Oh, and you mentioned sentry turrets, for example, because I noticed in the matches that I didn't see the sentry turrets, maybe I'm confusing, but I saw these small, tiny tanks look-alike units.
The reason you probably didn't see a lot of sentry turrets is they are expensive, and imagine like photon cannons in StarCraft.
Yeah.
They're effective for useful things, but you will very rarely see, unless they're doing, say, a cannon rush, you very rarely see a competitive StarCraft 2 player just go off and spam cannons, because that's resources, that's 150 minerals, and you have to make a trade-off. Do I want another Zealot, or do I want another another photon cannon? Now, it's the same in Natural Selection 2. Yes, you can build sentry guns, but competitive players will often rather say, nope, I'm going to get a shotgun upgrade faster. So you tend to see more sentry guns in public play than you do in competitive play. But, they're there. And the little tank you refer to is called the Ark. The Ark is a mobile assault cannon, roving cannon. What do we call it? I think it's the assault roving cannon. Ark. I don't know why, but Ark is cool, right?
Yeah.
Now that's a mini tank controlled by the commander. So he controls that like a traditional RTS unit, right clicks to move it. And, once he's confident in its position, maybe outside an alien hive, he can deploy that tank, and it will deploy itself, lower its armor, raise a cannon up, and that cannon can then fire through walls with a sonic weapon into alien structures. So that's sort of a siege-breaking unit. If the aliens are really entrenched, they've grown lots of structures, you might use a siege arc to break through that line.
Amazing. And I guess that there are alien equivalents as well in terms of not mech, but some organic structures that work as defense or.
There are. They have the aliens have a structure called the Hydra, which is actually dropped like by the Gorge. So as I said, he's like a combat engineer. Think the medic. Sorry, not the medic. Think the engineer in Team Fortress 2. He can build turrets and look after them and build a little base. That's very similar to what the Gorge can do. He can grow Hydras out of the ground. These Hydras have 3 heads and spikes. They'll shoot those spikes at nearby targets, and the Gorge tends to them. He grows them, he heals them, makes them more mature so they have more hit points. Much like gardening. If there's any gardeners out there, you might enjoy playing Gorge. And he can also, who likes Minecraft out there, right? The Gorge can also deploy something called a clog, which is very similar to a Minecraft block. You can arrange them in any kind of structure you want. Maybe you want to build a little fortress for yourself. Maybe you want to build a little fortress for your Hydras. Maybe you want to protect a harvester with a wall of these clog structures. So there's a whole bunch of defensive structures. Also the alien commander, and we're toying with moving this to the Gorge as well. He can deploy a structure called a whip, and that grows up out of the infestation, and that's a giant tentacle thing. And if the Marine gets too close, it can slap the Marine. And it's hilarious when you see a Marine get slapped and the ragdoll go flying. And that whip can also bombard Marines with an armor-destroying goo. So, yeah, there's definitely a wide array of structures. There's so many more structures than even that. But an important note is we're trying not to because this is a first-person shooter as well.
Yes.
We're trying not to let the maps be covered in structures because that interferes with movement. No one wants to run up against a wall of defensive structures. That's no fun. Imagine being a Marine and having to deal with photon cannon after photon cannon.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So, we have ways of limiting the amount of Hydras you can deploy on a map, limiting the number of whips. So to make sure it's a free-flowing experience, and you can't just build a wall of Hydras. You have to be careful with them, use them in certain locations if you want to maximize their impact.
Yeah, and it's something that even reading the blogs and even the tweets from NS2, there's always constant news about, we're balancing this, we're working on this unit in particular and whatnot. I've seen this in the past few days actually, which makes it's an amazing work, but I think it's quite daunting, right? In terms of balancing the FPS component with the RTS one.
It certainly is. And balancing has always been our challenge, Diego, because having 2 completely asymmetrical sides, and Charlie is absolutely adamant about this. He will not yield to making the sides similar. Making the sides similar is a really easy way to balance things. And a lot of developers just say, hey, bugger this, let's just have 2 symmetrical sides so we don't have to deal with this stuff. The 2 sides are so completely and utterly different in the way they go about everything, from building structures to getting technology revolutions, that it is a huge challenge. Right now, I think we're sitting on balance of about 56 to 44% alien Marine. So it's not great at the moment, but the point is that we update this almost every week, right? We're on a weekly schedule until this week. We've moved to a 2-weekly schedule at the moment. It's constantly evolving and changing. So it is a huge challenge, but we are confident we will get to StarCraft 2 levels of balance by release in a couple of months' time.
Well, you mentioned about, Charlie not yielding, and that's the thing I wanted to ask. Is there a moment, obviously in fun, as a tease, but is there a moment in the office where, no, this unit is too OP, it's too overpowered, and there's sort of like heated discussion, and then it gets resolved in the day, or?
Absolutely. We have a very open office. Everyone sits in one big room. We're all privy to everyone's discussions. And so, balanced discussions do happen. They do get heated if friendly. And, maybe a balanced discussion will start up between, Brian and Charlie over on that side of the room. And Corey will get up out of his chair and go over it. And then I'll start to hear some things that interest me. I'll go over and we'll start a big discussion. So, there is hugely passionate debate in the office about all sorts of balance issues. And more importantly, our community is very, very vocal when it comes to balance. And every time we change something, there's a huge, huge community reaction. Often a backlash at first, followed by acceptance and then tweaks. But the balance discussions are huge. And if any of your listeners want to get into this kind of thing, you absolutely can. I mean, you start a thread on our forums, and there will be a developer absolutely reading it. And your argument, if friendly and well put, will absolutely contribute to the balance of natural selection too. You have to remember that Charlie and Max and Corey have been in this for one way or another for 12 years. So this concept, in fact, even more than that now, it's going to be 12 and a half.
Wow.
From when the idea was first floated, between Charlie and Corey in that bar way back when. So, they can sometimes get a bit weary. They say, they love their game so much, but they can get a bit, the community's just giving us so much hell about the fact that we changed gorges to have limited numbers of structures, And so I try to get in there and cheer them up and say, hey guys, come on, you've been doing this for so long, you've made hundreds of changes like this. They'll come around to you, you'll tweak it based on their feedback, and it'll be all good. Yeah. But, there's definitely elements of that in there, in our discussions around the office. It's a very human, we're all humans. And
yeah, obviously.
People say things, especially on forums. You know how rough forums can get. People say things on forums, and you get a real human response, especially because us as developers, we try to be active in our forums, and we try not just to leave them as some place where community managers talk to the community. We want to actually talk to the community ourselves, and that is a really hard thing to do because it can wear you down very quickly. It's a really tough emotional thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Even, especially when you're so personally involved with a project and it's been with you for that length of time. Huge personal sacrifices made by some of the people on this team. Huge life sacrifices to make this game happen. They can't be overstated in all the terms of life. They have sacrificed things. So, absolutely, there's a human element, and when you're this close to the game and get the reactions we sometimes do, it can be tough, but most of the time, mate, we end up playing awesome games of NS2. We see people playing awesome games of NS2, and it's just all worthwhile to see people come together and have a friendly team experience. It's just fantastic. Every time when it's on, if I'm not working, I'm always tuning in. It's always so friendly, and you hear. Obviously, there's some jokes around and some banter because it's an open mic tournament, I think, right? Because there's this open communication between some of the players, and there's a break time. I remember before.
Yes.
The soldiers are just standing there, running around, and there's some aliens as well walking around, I think.
You're absolutely onto something there, mate, and that is the ready room. The ready room is, okay, so if you want to join a team in most games, what do? Well, before you join up the game, you're presented with a menu. It says, excuse me, do you want to be Zerg? Do you want to be Terran? Do you want to be Diamond Sword or whatever the tribes factions are? In Natural Selection 2, when you join a game, you get dropped into a 3D environment called the Ready Room, which is styled in the same way as the map is. And in that Ready Room, you have 4 choices: Spectate, Random, Marine, Alien. So you literally move and run as a character into your choice. And the crucial thing about that is before every game and after every game, everyone's brought together in the same room. Everyone that was playing each other just then is in the same space. The voice communication system in the game switches to all chat for that time. So instead of just talk to all aliens, you talk to everyone in the whole server. So it's a great moment when everyone can come together and hey, how about that rush at the end of the game? And the Marines can say, oh yeah, you losers going for a skull crush. But it's all in fun. And it's a way to bring people together. And that's what we want to do, Dago. We want to have them having team fun experiences. We want humans to interact in human ways and make new friends and have amazing new experiences.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about it, well, I don't want to say one of the most popular, because there is, like this past week that you were on holidays, people in the stream were like, where's Hugh? Where's the pencil? You have the magic pencil when you're casting. Let's talk about that experience, because there's something, being an FPS, RTS, beautifully done fusion game between those two elements. You actually go through a map point of view, a third-person point of view, and a first-person point of view, which makes casting quite interesting. Can you talk to us about that for a bit?
Yes. I mean, casting Natural Selection 2, I'd say, is difficult. I mean, I haven't really tried casting a lot of games, and I'm definitely not an expert caster, I don't get 200,000 views per cast, I'm happy if I get 4,000. That's really cool. But I do objectively think it is difficult, because you're not only juggling the RTS element of which tech path have they gone, how many units have they lost, how much resources are they collecting, where are their structures at, what are their locations, what are their strategies. You've also got the element of how well is that Marine shooting. It's not just, Marine versus Skulk, Marine versus Zergling, the Marine's always going to win. Oh, 2 Zerglings, now the Zerglings might win. It's not a mathematical thing. You can have a situation where one Marine walks into a room and takes out 3 Skulks. Very rare, but it can happen because it's down to their personal skill. And so you not only have to commentate Oh, that is huge because that's allowed the Marines to now push into this room they would not otherwise have been able to push into. They're now going to be able to secure more resources. That's going to allow them more tech. It's also, holy crap, did you just see TRC take down 3 skulks on his own? That guy is a machine. So there's this layer of human play underneath that you also have to deal with. And also, I mean, when you're starting a game and you want to introduce the teams, it's not just, all right, we've got Hydra here and he wins everything and we've got, Boxer and he's really cool. It's, okay, now on this team we've got blah, 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 blah. Now we know the team is known for being a bit creative and sometimes they're a little bit risky, and we also know that, this particular player, Smorg, is a really level-headed dude. He likes to keep a tight ship and he can keep things on a straight level. So you've got this huge amount of information to process. Honestly, if any of you guys out there listening are into casting, come and have a cast with me in Natural Selection 2 on Twitch TV. Love to have you because I think it could be a really fun experience for you to have that extra layer of stuff going on in the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's quite enthralling, and I always enjoy when that happens. Like, for example, you're seeing the first person view of a gorge or a skulk, for example, and then you immediately switch to the map and you're saying, oh, well, the creep is like spreading and the alien infestation is moving towards this side of the map and they're taking out this power node. And then you switch to third person view following a human soldier, for example. It's just amazing. And let's talk about the teams. I'm not sure how many teams are now.
I can absolutely, you're the first to hear this outside the office and outside just a few trusted people. They go, we're actually considering holding a beta tournament in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. Now it's iffy. So to all you listeners out there, it's just iffy. But the reason I bring that up is because today, when we were thinking about doing this, sort of thinking about how many teams are there out there.
Yeah.
Now, last week we did a count, and we roughly got 16 teams of various levels of activity. Now, each of those teams has at least 6 players, and often a couple in reserve. So effectively, got 16 times 6, so about over 100 players or thereabouts of competitive players out there in the scene, and I think that's a fairly decent number of competitive players for we're a tiny little game and a tiny little indie developer, so we're really proud of the fact that there's a whole bunch of teams out there that are trying to play. And if you want to start a team and get cast on Natural Selection 2 HD, on our YouTube channel, on my personal casting channel, on our Twitch TV, all you have to do is come over to our forums, join the competitive forum, and just make a thread that says, hey, I'm starting a team called the Woozle Wozzles, and I'd love to play this weekend. Who's up for a match? And absolutely, we will go to every effort to hook you up with a match and get you out there cast. It's that easy.
Amazing. That's awesome. And I hope it grows and grows. And for an indie company, you're getting there. I mean, people are noticing Natural Selection too. There are
certainly hope they are, mate.
Actually, because I follow some shows also on Twitch, and there are already a couple of people. Oh yeah, have you heard about Natural Selection too? Yeah, I'm fairly interested about that. It's not anything else but your sheer effort and love for the game and what the game is all about. This amazing fusion of FPS and RTS. And okay, what I wanted to, man, I sincerely believe it. Like, I'm amazed and I'm loving this game so far, and I love the stream. As a caster, has there been like a moment that you remember so far of a team doing this incredible strategy or something like pulling something out of their arses in the last second and surviving the odds, for example? Is there something that you've seen so far?
Pulled out. Back when we first put the Shade structure in, which is a structure that allows the alien commander to take a stealthy path, to choose stealth, so that to give his aliens the ability to choose stealthy evolutions. Kidwai Threadiab was some of the first players to ever start to mess with stealth.
Okay.
And they were playing, and I think it was the first time, and I know it's not common now, but you do see it around now, but I remember they were the first team I saw in a competitive match to, basically they played out the game, for the first few minutes. They played through the early game, and nothing looked unusual at all. And, the Marine team was playing it out very well. And then suddenly, I was thinking, where's Kidwai Threadiab's stealth? Where's their tech structure? Where's their path they're choosing? Just like in StarCraft, after the first few minutes, you can probably tell where the tech is going, for that player, at least roughly. And I think, where's it going? This is back before we had very good spectator tools. We couldn't really tell what was going on.
Yeah.
And eventually, in one corner of the map, hidden away in a room, in an odd corner, was this shade, which is sort of this structure that looks sort of like a tree with no leaves and sort of membranes between the branches. And I thought, whoa, what's going on here? What's going on here? And the Marines had scouted the alien hive and they'd seen no tech. So they're probably thinking, oh, whatever, these guys, they've made a mistake. They must have dropped their res on something else. They've got no tech. Yeah. Or they're going for a skulk rush or something. They've got nothing here. And meanwhile, all of the aliens left their hive, went all the way over to this shade on the other side of the map and sat around this shade, which is like sitting around this tree. And, me being a caster who hadn't seen this before, thinking, I'm trying to remember now, what was the shade? What can it do? It's only just gone in. And suddenly the shade erupts into its stealth mode and it casts a blanket of stealth all over all these skulks in a pack. Now keep in mind, all 6 players have moved as a team, as a unit, across the map, sat around this tree structure, the shade, all been cloaked at once, and then they've all started moving towards the Marine base. All at once, as a complete unit. And they get into the Marine base. There are Marines running around them, not a single one attacked, not a single skulk broke ranks. Exceptional teamwork. They get into the base, they stop around the infantry portals, they pause until all the Marines have left, hunting their harvesters and hive, and then suddenly, bang, they come out of stealth, they chomp down the infantry portals in about 10 seconds flat, they go for the command station, they win the game. And to me, that was incredible because it showed such incredible teamwork. Can you imagine being on that team and like, okay guys, no one attack, no one jump, do nothing that could break your cloak, move slowly, move carefully amongst the Marines, they're all running past us, that kind of teamwork just, it gets me going, man. It ruffles my jimmies, that's what it does.
Man, that's even, and not only teamwork, it's creativity. Like the commander
Absolutely.
Or somebody imagining something like that. And nobody spotted, nobody realized that the skulks were passing through them. Like you can't see through the cloak.
Can't see them because of the particular tech that had been chosen, the particular evolutions chosen, impossible to see them. And so it was just fantastic watching these guys have such discipline because, a lot of players, we'll go stealth and they'll sort of scatter all over the map trying to kill things. These guys had, no, we're all going to move as a unit here. We're going to exploit this situation perfectly, and they do.
I think it's important to mention that the graphic source engine, it's the source engine, right? It's the graphic interface or coding.
Does it look good enough to be the source engine?
It looks awesome, I have to say.
I think it's up there with the source engine?
I think so.
It is.
Well, I don't know if
surprised? Would you be surprised if I told you it is not the source engine? Could you guess what engine it was?
No, I thought it was. And I did a bit of research, and maybe the source that I read was wrong because I said, oh, that makes sense. It is the source engine. It is.
Mate, it is. It's absolutely thrilling that you think it looks good enough to be the source engine. This is our own in-house engine called Spark. It was written by one man. It's written by Max Maguire. It's completely our own engine, and it's been written from the ground up for Natural Selection 2. It's an engine we hope to be able to pass on to modders, to little developers that want to make their own game. It's our baby, and we're very proud of it. Max is an amazing man for writing this whole thing himself. And, that's the engine. It is called Spark. It is not Source. And I'd love to go to wherever you read and just politely correct them because a lot of people do think it is Source, and I don't blame them, The original was a Half-Life mod, so people assume that the next one is a Half-Life 2 mod. But no, it is our own engine. It has very unique capabilities. It is extremely open to modding. I cannot overstate just how easy it is to mod our game on Spark. And we openly say to people, and we encourage people, if you want to build a game, try Spark out because it's just so easy to program for. We've made it so stunningly easy to write code for that, we hope that it will be the kind of engine that people with limited resources, limited funding, absolutely turn to, over, say, Unreal or Source where the fees might be a bit higher. And it's absolutely free to mod for as well.
That's amazing. I want to shake his hand, by the way. I'm like, you sir are the man. Can I have your autograph? Are you kidding me? He built it from the ground.
Is he the man or what?
Yeah, exactly.
It's nuts. It's nuts. And, at PAX East, when we were showing the game, everyone's going, why so long if it's a Half-Life 2 mod? And we'd say, well, it's not. It's It's our own engine, and it's our own thing, and that's the reason this game is taking a long time, is because we are doing things the hard way. But you know, Dago, I always come back to this with people when they say, well, why do things the hard way? Why not just go with source? And, you know, the lofty thing is, you know, we choose to go to the moon. You could have, you know, America could have sent a robot to the moon, right, to get the same amount of moon rocks, and probably more and a lot safer. But they said, no, we're going to put man on the moon because that is an amazing thing to do, and it'll move us forward as people. Now, we're trying to move the game industry forward in our own little way by doing something in a very, very hard way. And not only does that give us unique capabilities of the way we can build our game, for example, it's completely dynamically lit, unlike Source. I'm not saying Source is bad. I'd never say that. I'm just saying it's different the way our engine works. For example, you can change code in our game. For example, you might change the health of a Marine, and while the game is running, it will change the health of that Marine. So you can hot load script is what we call that. So there's all these unique capabilities, and we think that doing it the hard way is not only a way to move things forward and do something because it is hard and because it can lead to wonderful things, and it's also going to create opportunities for people that, you know, they can't afford the Source engine, or they can't afford Unreal, or CryEngine 3 or something like that. So we're really, really excited about what Spark is going to bring to the game development community. You do get all the Spark tools that we use to build the game when you purchase the beta, which also gives you the full access.
Nice. No, that's awesome. So it comes with all the package and to create maps and modify the source, the graphic source engine, the graphic engine called Spark in this case, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, I mean, the Spark engine, I almost did it just then. Obviously the Spark engine itself, you can't directly modify that, because that would be, you'd have access to our source code.
Yeah.
And that would be like, you know, that would be disastrous for us, because then anyone could just take our engine and copy it and make money from it. But instead what we do is, we make the engine so completely accessible through a scripting language called Lua, which is a very easy language to write. Even I can write some Lua very, very basically. Basically, you can control the engine with Lua. For example, you can write a shader, which is a coding structure that defines how an object is represented graphically. For example, it might create a shimmer or water effect or something. You can write that in Lua extremely easily, and then the Spark engine will take care of all the plumbing underneath. So, yeah, you basically hook in through this very easy scripting language, and all the hard work is done by Spark underneath. Lua is a programming language that's been around for a long time.
Oh, okay.
It's widely accepted as being a very accessible scripting language, amongst others. And basically, when Natural Selection 2 was being mooted, and when we were saying, hey, well, I mean, I wasn't, because I was off doing other things, but when, you know, Charlie, Max, and Corey were saying, right, let's start NS2, they were thinking, right, you know, how are we going to do this? There's so few of us. We want to create so much game code. Natural Selection 2 is a very complex game. It would take just untold thousands of man hours to write this game in C++, which is what a team with more money and more people would do.
Yeah.
And so they said, okay, why don't we write the bits that have to be in C++, the engine, in that, and we'll try writing everything else in a very easy scripting language. And that effectively allowed Charlie, Max, and Corey, and all the coders that have come and gone, and, you know, Brian, who is the lead programmer here right now, it allows them to write code very quickly. And now that is crucial, Dago, because right now there's so few of us. If we want to write code for, say, a grenade launcher, we can do that very quickly. Now, if we were using a higher level language such as C++, which is, you know, it's more verbose, it's more efficient, but it's more verbose, it would take us too long, and we wouldn't be able to get the game made as quickly as we've been able to using Lua. So that's part of the reason we've done our own engine, is so that we can write all this complex game code very, very quickly and iterate on it very, very quickly. So change it often.
We mentioned a bit already a couple of times PAX East. And that's what I want to come up, the question that I want to ask is, in esports being it's a fairly new industry, not many people are still aware about it. I mean, I get a few surprises from friends and people that I know. They're like, esports, what is that? And you know, what is that? And so in a new but ever growing and fastly growing actually now currently esports community now with the technology and internet and whatnot, how do you guys, I mean, what do you see as the future for Natural Selection 2 in terms of, you know, making a foothold and saying, guys, here we are. We're an independent company, but
It is tricky for us, Dago, because a lot of games can break into the competitive esports scene by simply going on the back of an existing brand name, having a huge multi-million dollar marketing campaign, huge Facebook advertising campaign, huge advertising on billboards, in movies. They can do that, and we can't. So if we're going to break into the esports scene, which we are absolutely committed to doing, we crave it. We absolutely crave making Natural Selection 2 an esport. If we want to break in, it is all down to your listeners, because it's you guys out there. You are everything for us. It's people saying, hey, this game's alright. I have never seen this game on a billboard, but this game blends tactical intensity, first-person excitement, strategic depth, real-time strategy, casting, commentating. It blends all that in a unique way, and hey, this is worthy of being seen on the big stage. And we can only appeal to you guys out there to help us make that happen. We cannot do it ourselves. We talk longingly about spending $1,000 on ads for certain websites, and that is it. So esports is a huge industry. It is growing. We want to break in, but it will require people to say, as you said, this game is alright. And honestly, I believe this game is alright. I think it's got some real potential for esports. Yeah. And hopefully, one day we will see, just like you do with StarCraft and Counter-Strike and all that, 2 teams of 6 or 7 or whatever, the game can be played with up to 32 players. Those 2 teams lining up on a stadium, in a stadium somewhere, in a hall somewhere, with the big screens and the commentators and everything happening. We crave that day, and we want to make it happen because we want to entertain people. We want to give people an amazing team play experience, and we think we're bringing something that can make a lot of people happy.
I have to say, and it's something very, really unique, and I don't think currently there's any game that brings such uniqueness in terms of combat and strategy. It's something really nice to see. Are you guys planning on being in any event soon, like E3 or other video game conferences?
Absolutely, we are planning on being at E3, PAX Prime, and hopefully Gamescom in Europe. So we absolutely want to. The challenge for us can't be understated, because it's a lot of money, which we don't necessarily have. It's a lot of time, which we really don't have in terms of programmers taken off the job to do these shows. So it's a real challenge for us, but we absolutely want to. And we recognize we can't just sit here and say, hey, our game's great, and expect people to go, oh yeah, your game's alright. We need to get out there and show the game, and that's what we're trying to do by going to these shows. Absolutely. E3 is the soonest one for sure.
Nice. And when are you guys planning for release?
Release will happen at probably the end of summer. We're absolutely gunning for summer.
Okay.
We take this very, very seriously, pledging this release date. So it's going to happen soon. Release will be interesting for us because we'll put out to as much press as we can. We'll try to get seen. We'll do very, very, very modest advertising, and I'm talking 4 figures. Definitely not. Maybe 5 if we're really lucky. We'll do what we can in terms of that. But it's going to be a progression. Version 1 is going to come, but the next day we're going to be back in the office cranking on new abilities, new structures, new depth for the game every single day, new maps, new graphical improvements. So while launch day will be really big, and it will be an incredibly proud moment because this has been so long coming, it will not be the end of Natural Selection 2 development. In fact, I'd say it's only the beginning, and especially for Spark development as well for that engine, it's going to be just the beginning.
Well, and I think we covered a lot, I think. Well, so for wrapping it up, do you have any, firstly, how can people follow you guys and help and contribute?
Sure. If you head to naturalselection2.com, you'll see our splash page. So you can see a little trailer there. It's getting a bit outdated, but it's still a lot of fun. You can see links to our Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Steam groups, Reddit, etc. We try to keep a presence on all those places. You can head over to unknownworlds.com/ns2 to see our community site, get regular news updates from us, participate in the community forums. You can head to youtube.com/naturalselection2hd for my unofficial, I only do it after hours as a non-employee, channel with heaps of competitive games. You can twitch.tv/naturalselection2 for live official games, and you can go to youtube.com/unknownworlds for our official channel with some cool movies, behind the scenes in the office and all that. So there's a huge array. And I guess the first place to go is naturalselection2.com. Then, head over to the Twitter, follow the Twitter, or like us on Facebook, or plus us on Google+, add us to circles, because that way you can start to tap into the wealth of stuff we try to put out, And it's challenging for us, Dago. It really is, to try and show people where we are, because again, we don't have that huge ability to project ourselves, but there's a lot of stuff out there if you want to go find it. And we hope some of your viewers will, and guys out there, we'd love it if you did. And there's so many opportunities to participate in the community if you want to. It's only a forum post, or you can even Skype me, Hugh.Jeremy. Send me an email, hugh@unknownworlds.com. So just get in contact with us. We'd love to chat.
Yeah, I think it certainly deserves the attention, because it's a very, very well designed game, and there's a lot of people, passionate people behind it. So it's pretty amazing to see. Any shout outs in particular that you have?
Shout outs? I don't know. Just to the team here. I don't know if they'll listen, but if they do, you guys are winners, guys, and keep it up. And, we're going to win this. And, shout out especially to the community at large. I mean, they do so much. There's just so much commentating games, creating maps, creating mods that are just crucial, running servers, play testing for us. It's just immense. And to everyone out there who plays NS2, you're amazing, and we love you so much.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Well, anyway, Hugh, thank you so much for doing this and being on the interview. Looking forward to the future of Natural Selection 2. I love your commentating, your casting, and as well as the other casters as well. I mean, it's really good. I'm pretty happy that this game exists.
Thank you so much, Dagon. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here, and really huge thanks to you for putting this on and letting us come and talk and taking an interest in our little game.
No worries. It might be little, but it's huge, man. You have no idea.
Certainly hope so.
It is huge.
Certainly hope so.
Well, for you listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. Please subscribe, rate, and comment. It helps a lot the channel and the show. And please make sure to follow these guys and Natural Selection 2. It's a very, very unique game and has a huge potential for esports. Well, thanks again, and see you guys next time.